So here we are on a beautiful day in West Antarctica. It's pretty desolate out here, and you might think that this is pretty much the middle of nowhere, Antarctica. And in some ways it is, but in some ways it's also the middle of everywhere, because this area has acted as a hub for fieldwork in West Antarctica for decades. The camp is named after Admiral Richard E. Byrd, who was exploring the polar regions in the 1930s. And through the years, the camps have changed. In the 50s and 60s, it was actually established as an underground camp. So if you can imagine actually living and working in tunnels and rooms underneath the snow and ice, it would be very different than what we have today, which is an above-ground camp here at Byrd in 2010. So looking around this very flat, very white, very quiet place, you might think that there's not a lot happening here, and usually there isn't. But in the last few weeks, we've been quite busy here at Byrd Camp.
It's nice to be able to be here for the whole process, to get in, to be able to, right from the beginning with the first shoveling, getting everything down, building it, and hopefully I'll be here through the rest of takeout. Well, for the first few days, it was actually pretty good. It was a little bit windy, but it was totally manageable. You could see just fine. But I think the second week that we were here, it was actually the same day that we'd managed to move the kitchen module down, and yet all our tents were still up on the berms. So right after we did that, the storm had come in. And it was definitely a condition 1. It was hard to see, sometimes even up to 10 feet in front of us. And we'd managed to put out a line of flags so that we can get back and forth, and we had to do a couple of small expeditions of going to get our sleep kits and bringing them back down and staying in the only 2 tents that were up. So we kind of had a sort of a slumber party, but mostly it was just, hunkering down and waiting for it to blow over. But, it's part of the adventure, and it's what we're here for, and I definitely am glad that I got to experience that. There's a beautiful community here of really interesting people, and it's a tight-knit community because we're living in the same place, we're working in the same place, eating together, hanging out after work, and so you really develop kind of a nice set of folks who live and work well together. We've had challenges, with the missing pepper and the missing chocolate, and so there's a giant box of food that has pepper and chocolate and coffee. So we're starting to wonder, will it ever make it to camp? Is somebody enjoying these fineries someplace else?
I find that for some reason coffee just tastes better down here.
It's delicious on a nice day to enjoy the weather, a cup of coffee. It's beautiful.
I didn't come down here to vacation like I'm in Florida.
That's right.
It's a very unique breed of people that come down here, and I won't see these people for 6 months, but when I see them again, it's just like leaving right up where we left off before. I like the people that step up and make things happen, and their ingenuity and their intelligence, and seeing the science, all these different perspectives. But I can truly say it is the people that keep bringing me back here.
Left behind everything I knew. All the colors were bone white and sky blue. Hit the continent running, engines were humming just to break through. Antarctica, my only living relative. Antarctica, I can't wait anymore.
Because the weather is quite cool back there. This is our first flight out of Byrd Camp, and we're really excited to get this show on the road, or the air, as it may be. This is my first flight with POLENET ever, and I'm really excited, and it's going to be awesome.
I'll just remember the wind and the snow and the howling so loud that it alone drowns out the inside of me.
I'm a glacial seismologist, so I look at the seismicity that's produced by the glaciers themselves. Well, the first thing we do when we get there is we clear out the snow that's around the box, because at a lot of these sites there's a lot of precipitation every year. And we hook up a little computer we have that is on the outside, and we take some initial measurements telling us what's happened over the status over the previous year. Then we open them up and switch out a couple of the parts. After that's done, we close it, and in some cases where there's a lot of snow, we lift up the box, fill in the hole that's in so that it sits higher to the surface. We don't want to keep it buried so low that the next year when we come back to find it, we can't find it.
So in the 2 weeks that we've been here at Byrd, we've had some pretty fickle Antarctic weather as usual. We've been able to visit 7 out of the 14 seismic sites that lay on a transect that crosses through Byrd Camp. And we've also managed to visit 3 GPS and seismic sites at Waste Divide, Mount Whitmore, and Mount Sidley. And Mount Sidley has proven to be the most challenging site for the GPS team this year.
When we got near the site, it's a dormant volcano, an otherwise flat area, and because we had such nice conditions, bright sun and no wind, there was a lot of thermals. So our pilots, despite 10 valiant efforts, kept circling and circling this area and hitting these thermal pockets. And the plane was jumping up and dropping down at about 500 feet per second, which caused me, at least, to almost throw up in the cockpit. But I was able to muscle it down a couple of times, but I had to use my crampon bag as a possible receptacle, so that was rough. Anyway, we finally landed, but because we weren't able to land nearer to our site, we were forced to do a longer walk. So we were about 1.3 miles from our site, and it was an uphill trudge through a boulder field of basaltic rocks from the volcano. So we harnessed in, we tied off several daisy chains essentially to the sled, and began hauling about 250 pounds of gear up to the site. So once we got to the site, we found out why it wasn't working. A severe windstorm came through. We had 3 of the 4 solar panels were shattered from rock impacts. So actual basaltic rocks of a significant enough size to shatter hardened glass became entrained in the airflow and smacked and crushed those. We lost both the wind turbines. The meteorological pack, what we call the MET pack, unthreaded itself and was launched 45 feet behind the site. So that was pretty impressive. It was cratered in the snow where we found it. And then what else? Then the cables had also been ripped out of the box by the wind. So the whole site was pretty well beat up. We were able to repair those things. We were able to actually get 7 months of data out of that site that we thought we'd lost. So that was a success story. And it was a beautiful day, not a drop of wind.
So the one constant here in Antarctica is change. From the weather to the flight plans to the food supply, things are always changing. And you might meet somebody and make a new friend one day, and they'll be gone the next, and you might not see them for another year, which is what happened to our friends, who we affectionately call the Piggies. As we said goodbye to them the other day, they set off for a traverse to Pine Island Glacier, also known as Pig, which is about 450 miles from here, so we wish them all the best in their journey.
We're traversing out to Pine Island Glacier from Byrd Camp, so we're making a helicopter camp 1,400 miles from the nearest civilization. This is a very large traverse for Western Antarctica.
We have 3 of these Challenger 55s, 1 Tucker behind us, and a snowmobile.
We have a ground penetrating radar. It's going to be checking for crevasses. It's better technology than using a stick like they used to.
So look at this burger, it's going to be awesome. I don't think they have this kind of burger in frozen food section.
No, not last meal.
That's really weird.
You ready for it?
Oh, my eyes. Wow.
I feel something.
Oh, I'll miss you, brother. I miss you.
heading to our first day out towards Waste Divide. We should be stopping at the 50-mile point halfway to Waste Divide.
So we continue to hope for good weather here at Byrd Camp. In another week, our team is going to split up. Some of us will stay here. Some people will go to Union Glacier Camp, and some people will head back to McMurdo. So we're trying to maximize our resources and our people and try and get as much done as we can before the season closes in on us.
I just want to say hi to my boys, Brooks and Kai, in Mrs. Fortini and Mrs. Ayers' class. Hi Brooks, hi Kai.
I just want to give a shout out to my third grade friends back at River Oaks Academy. Thanks a lot for your questions. We'll get back to you really soon.
Hello to all the folks back in North Carolina.